Thank you. I'm hoping the voice, yeah, this feels like COVID again. Where can you hear me? No, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I um, don't really enjoy taking sessions after lunch. It's the graveyard shift and everyone's got droopy eyes. So hopefully we'll kind of wake you up on this one. But no, thank you once again to the Realty Plus Flex Spaces Conclave for this opportunity. I'm delighted to welcome you to the session on Flex Workspaces, new models and prospects in 2024. Before I open this up to the panelists over here, I just thought it's important to give you a bit of context on the flex industry for those of you who may not be well versed with some of these facts. Today, 8% of India's supply stock is occupied by the flex operators. That's about 70 million square feet. If India's stock is at about 800 million square feet today, 70 million square feet is occupied by the flex operators. That's just behind the IT industry and the financial services. And keep in mind, this industry is relatively new. It's about 7 years since it became a household word. So that kind of tells you the growth the industry has seen. It also adds a lot of opportunities for the real estate market, not just from an occupier perspective. And I'm going to hopefully pick Radhika's brain on that one because she's the only occupier sitting over here right now. True blood occupier, if I may call it that. But institutional funds, developers, landlords, which is relevant to all of us sitting in this room. I think post the pandemics, the importance of agility has come out more, and the business enabling that the flex operators provide to us cannot be discounted or not discussed further in detail. So I really thank all the panelists for taking out time and making this, this afternoon over here. I'm going to leave 10 minutes at the end for questions from the audience. But during the conversation, if there's something pertinent, if you can just pass it on to some of the members over here, I'm sure we'll pick that up. I'm going to start off really with Anuj, and that's because he's sitting right here, and somebody who just told me something outside, which I'm taken personally, so I'm going to meet you a lot more often. Sorry about that. But in the context, Anuj, of 2024, what innovative approaches are you seeing the flex workspace sector address? With regards to workforce, with regards to social fabric, with regards to social infrastructure, what innovative methods are you seeing yourself and your peers take in this business?
I think hello, sorry. I think traditionally people used to go to work places to work. I think what's changed post-pandemic is work has moved out of the workspace. Today, you can work anywhere you like. And I think that's a big fundamental shift that we have seen. The great companies who had great IT policies let go all of them, trusted all the employees sitting at home during pandemic to be able to work. And I think the shit has worked for people, right? Of course, there are other challenges on that side. But we've seen that today people have the ability to work remotely, save 2-3 hours of travel time, manage family, kids, and yet continue to work, but individually. Will this become the norm? Hell no. But is this going to be a part of our work-life balance? I think to some extent, I would say yes. And I think eventually this will become a reasonable balance between managing everyone's mutual benefits of company, employees, the teams that work within the space. And I think offices are now looked upon as a place for social gathering, a space for collaborative spaces where teams can work together. Innovation cannot happen in isolation. Innovation happens when teams hustle together, teams work together. Ideas come out at that point in time. And I think that's what the office space is going to eventually turn out to be. I remember many years back, to enter into a building, if you're not a tenant, you're not allowed inside. Today, in that same building, there's a restaurant sitting inside. So even if you're not a member of the building, you're able to go inside that space and enjoy the facility. So I think the model of offices has become a more collaborative space for you to meet, interact, and build partnerships and relationships together more than just working there. And I think the way this code plus flex model is evolving today, while I think current stats is about 10-12%, if I'm not wrong. But I think in the long run, this will become about 30% of a large corporate space will be a code plus flex opportunity. And I definitely feel that because of the big cultural shift that we see in the working style, and the corporates have also now started doing this, right? Corporates are now looking at places where you are a major set of employees and opening an office in the region. So today, maybe you had an office in BKC, but if you have 50 employees coming from Thana, it will not be surprising for you to see a company opening an office space or a satellite office in Thana. People have done that in places like Bhubaneswar, where they're not in that many buildings, to be honest. But people have gone ahead and opened 60, 70,000 square foot offices in a place like Bhubaneswar because a lot of people came from that region. So I think that's where the shift I see is happening today. And I think for all these to happen, I think Flex plays a very important role. We are a very agile format in terms of quick scale ups, quick go lives. We are able to focus on collaborative spaces a lot more than a traditional company. And I think that's where the value add we are bringing into the changing work culture, if I can say that. And I think from a design perspective, just to conclude that point, nobody wants to sit in an office which is a boxed office anymore. Those days are done and dusted. You will feel employees, just because the office looks better, change their office space because this is better than that. And I think today, design plays a very important role in creating collaborative spaces, sustainability, as well as quality of life for people.
Thank you, Anuj. And, speaking about well-being and, employee-centric, Sanjay, I'm going to move to you. And, you've been in the same shoes I've been for probably longer than I have. And you've seen the whole brick and mortar from the late 90s all the way, into the 2000s. Just from your perspective, in what ways does the flex workspace providers leverage the power of community building to create an advantage, not for just your occupiers, but even other flex operators to, let's say, ape, if I may use that word, or improve? You've seen the brick and mortar brokerage side of the business. You're now in the flex mode. What are we doing for the community? What are the leverages that we have for the community to make this go to the next step?
So, Janak, I think we continue to sort of, work with the clients and continue to enhance their experience. What better we can do to ensure that, they've got a, enhanced experience within the centers. I think there are three components to it. One is design focused. The other one is culture focused. And the third part is technology. When we really just talk about the design, we working on open floor plans, open layouts. There are a lot of collaborative spaces, comfortable lounges and recreation areas. We have these common cafeterias and these recreation areas where, these employees from different organizations can really just mix up. And it, gives you a sense of that, community. Secondly is, culture. It's we do a lot of network events, and as simple as, just celebrating these festivals together, like a Holi, Diwali, or Eid or a Republic Day. Just imagine, the companies, multiple companies within the center, just coming together and celebrating together. So that really gives you a sense of togetherness and a sense of community there. There's a lot of focus on technology as well, especially on the tools like, how they can sort of communicate with other occupants within the building. They're having those chats, common conference room, meeting rooms, carpools for that matter, just employees coming together. So there's a lot of work which is happening in the background, and we're putting a lot of effort to ensure that the employees from different organizations within the same building, within the same center, just come together and feel that sense of togetherness and then be together there.
Sanjay. And Radhika, I'm going to segue to you because I'm sure these are some of the parameters you all look at when choosing a partner for an agile space. But according to you, from an occupier perspective, what would be the top 5 must-haves you want to see in today's agile operator, keeping the way we are right now in 2024 and beyond?
So firstly, thanks Janak, and thanks to the team here on the Realty Plus side to have an occupier on this panel, because it's very important. We struggle so much to fit into the flexi working model. And now we've ended up creating flexi spaces within our offices. Now, it's not that we cannot tie in together, we can. But what happens is when you look at from a banking standpoint, I'll speak on the banking side because I've been doing it for the last 8 years. The premium struggle that we face is how do you make a custom fit office for me and not give me something which is already done and I retrofit myself there. Because for us, the culture plays a lot of importance in the whole scheme of things. Like for a bank like us, which is more like a startup bank while we are like already 9 years old, but we consider ourselves more on new age tech. So there's a particular culture that we work around. Aside that, the nature of operations is very important for any flexi or co-working space to understand why we function the way we function and why banks are hesitant in not opting for co-working spaces. It's not that they cannot. They can, but maybe certain businesses or certain nature of operations which are more regulatory driven, which are more controlled environment, maybe those business functions cannot work out of that place. But if I have to make my startup banking sit in a co-working space, absolutely I can look at. If I want my tech team to sit out of a co-working space, I can. But what would enable it to happen? One, please stop giving us per seat cost. It doesn't work. Because for us, it's more of volume. I'm not going to talk to you for 10 or 15 seats. I'm going to talk to you for like 200 seats. I'm going to talk to you for 30,000 square feet. Now, that's something I think the value proposers should be, open to listening. And eventually, if you calculate all of that, I'm sure you will not make loss. It's just a, mindset that we have to go on per seat model. Now, unfortunately, I can't take your servers, I can't take your housekeeping, I can't take your security, but I still have to pay for it. So then that's one of the key reasons where I think people think, okay, we might not look at it. Or maybe when you're designing spaces, you can keep some portion open and not design it and wait for a banker to come and associate with you all and then you design it. So I understand every square foot matters and every seat matters. We are the ones who are going to be the worst negotiators when it comes to asking for more. But we'll also commit for a longer period and we will stay. That's more important in the current scenario. We're not functioning like any startup which would just wind up overnight and just, say, okay, I'm releasing seats from tomorrow. That's not going to happen ever. So we've tried different models. We've tried different models with co-works, we've tried with WeWorks. In some cases it's worked, in some cases it's not. But I feel there's a lot we can do together because as a bank, we're growing and there's a lot of opportunities there. Not only us, any other banking would be open. So please think of certain design aspect. While we don't need too much of open spaces, but we can leverage on or latch on to what is there in the common amenity there. We would need more of efficiency. We will need more of controlled environment. Somebody to think of our culture and not treat us like any other bank because every bank will have a different culture and a different vision. A HDFC versus a IDFC versus a Axis, a Kotak, all four of them will be different. All different requirements. And so don't put us in that banking bracket. I think that little bit of moving ahead and taking that extra effort to understand what the culture is and why we are opting for a space in a particular region. Why a Chennai, why a Bangalore, why a Hyderabad? Like, what are we trying to do out of that? It's not just pure banking operations. We'll never have customer-facing unit in any co-working concept. But if we are coming there, why are we coming there?
No, Radhika, thank you. I know Sanjay and Anuj are giving
I'll
me the
just
look.
add to what Radhika
I knew there was
said.
going to be a response to that. But
I think you're talking to the wrong
I
people,
knew I
ma'am.
would call for this.
We can pick from here and
So
talk.
I'll just share my experience because, a year back we were pitching into a lot of banks and a similar thing, because they were a little reluctant to get into the flexi space or the customized space. But today we are doing a large project for one of the large banks. And this is for their highly secured credit card division. So we executed one project for them 6 months back. They were very excited. That was executed as per their design, as per their specs. And these are long term. It's not like a
it would work because
Yeah.
you made an effort to sit with them and understand
Correct.
what they want and then you made a custom made solution, right?
Correct.
It was not something which somebody had to retrofit.
Correct.
And that's where it will work. And
Correct.
see, for us, it's very, I'll tell you, it's like I'll be more happy if somebody does all the fit outs for us and gives us a ready space, go occupy and, have fun.
We actually took it
We
further.
don't want to get into that space of really getting into doing fit outs.
We actually
Right.
took it further. We gave a search, build and manage entire package to them, so they really don't have to write one check. So we'll
Yeah.
take from start till end, we'll
It
execute
will
everything.
work. It will work given the pace at which banks are growing. We're in a growth economy, and banks are gonna here to stay. They are doing well. I've not heard of any bank saying, we're not doing well quarter on quarter. At least for the last 6 quarters, every bank has only posted profits quarter on quarter, growth quarter on quarter. The economy itself is growing. So there's a lot of scope for sure.
So outside of the growth, which is why I remain gainfully employed, it's because Sanjay and Radhika can't agree on certain things. I still have a job. So thank you. Let's keep it that way for the foreseeable future. But I'm gonna move to Kamaljeet. And Kamaljeet, a lot of us spoke about technology, and I think that's something I want to touch on before we move to Jibran and Shyam, because I've got my questions set out that way. Considering how quickly workforce is changing, how offices are being designed, and everyone talks about technology and culture, I think those are the two common threads coming out, over there. What strategies are you seeing flex operators use to future-proof their offerings? Is there something you can share with us on that?
Yeah, the panelist has make my answer a little bit easier, as you can say the people are talking about agility and infrastructure, how easily we can redo that modification without doing a minimalistic cost. And on top of it, in terms of bringing a lot of stuff according to the customer requirement, that's utmost important going forward. And it may started with the technology integrations. Then you have, you can say you have to understand the local beliefs and the practices, what kind of a people and who are going to use the services. For example, if I go down south, people used to have eat food with hands. So you need to create a lot of hand cleaning, you can say, areas. So same thing will not be applicable in the north or west side. So these are the few things which need to be taken care of. And then accessibility point of view, inclusivity point of view. You may have specially enabled people. You may have a third gender in the upcoming world. You can say the way we are moving forward. These are the new things which we have to, you can say, adapt to those changes and create those environments which will be acceptable and moving forward, give you a lot of flexibility in terms of sustainable growth, as one of our friend has recently just mentioned before the session about the green building. So these are the few factors which going forward needs to be taken into consideration. And rightly said that security is at most important. That only can be taken care by with the technology incubation and you can say that integration, and not only limited to the visitor management system, but to the further extension with the attendance, with the access to certain areas also.
And Jibran, I'm going to keep to technology. Oyo's, of course, been one of the pioneers of technology and from where to where it's come. And now even in the flex space, how are you guys using technology? And more so you, because you guys are at the forefront of providing flex spaces to offer a more personalized environment to occupiers.
Right. So the role of technology in a workspace, it takes many factors, doesn't it? It's first to understand as to what are things which are important to the people who are occupying that particular space, right? It comes right from, a customer enters the flex space, right? What kind of visitor management system, what kind of customer check-in systems do you have? So that is one aspect which we found, so that is something which is important to people who are occupying these particular spaces. And then it boils down to, in the end of the day, these are a lot of these centers are shared spaces where you have multiple occupiers sitting, right? There are shared meeting rooms, etc. Do you have something an easy system where people can book these particular common access systems? So that is another thing which is no longer just a good to have, but something which customers really value, right? That is something which really comes into the place. The third is obviously the operation aspect of it, right? In the end, right, it's right. It's a service that is being offered, right? It's a service office space. Do you have enough, outlets where people can sort of, put in feedbacks, lodge complaints, etc. And do you have a unified platform for doing that, right? So that's a third thing. And then the fourth things which nowadays are, becoming increasingly good to have, maybe not on top of the list, right? Some additional value, additional bundles which we can provide to the customers, right? For example, there's an idea which is gaining ground in certain places now, that you perhaps have a kiosk where you can place multiple orders. You tied up with a F&B vendor that the entire menu is there, and there's one or two kiosks placed in that particular space. You place your order through that particular kiosk, and you'll probably get that order within a short span of time, right? Of course, that's different from your usual Swiggy Zomatos, because it's the vendor that belongs to that particular space, right? And so you can give in advance, and you bundle other products as well, right? Perhaps somebody wants early some medical assistance. So those are the few things which are technological interventions within office spaces, and then things which are gaining ground, right? Which perhaps are not of the highest priority, but nowadays it depends on the customer to customer base, right? Which eventually, right? Janak mentioned about the environment aspect, right? Do you have things such as smart lighting, smart sensors, those kind of things, right? Sort of IoT enabled workspace. Those are things which are increasingly gaining ground, right, among a section of occupiers, and it'll only increase, right? From a good to have, it'll probably become a must have, perhaps in 3 to 4 years time. But the four sort of things which I mentioned, those are things which, and of course, we talked about the community aspect of it, right? The community aspect of it is that Sanjay sir mentioned about, perhaps having a common community platform where different members can interact, right? So that is something which is a huge value add, right? Especially for spaces which have, a high percentage of startups, which, I mean, if you actually look at the absorption in the co-working industry in the past 2 years, say around in the past fiscal, say around 31% of the seats occupied were by startups, right? So they value those sort of community interactions where they can mingle amongst themselves, right? So those are all the occupier side of things, technology. There's another aspect on the relationship between the landlord and the co-working operator as well, right? A lot of co-working occupier, a lot of co-working operators, they have smart sort of arrangements with landlords, maybe a revenue share sort of an arrangement, right? Where things such as reconciliation of accounts becomes really important. So technological intervention, and that's something which is a huge value add, where through the click of an app, the landlord can see exactly what the status of his center is, how many new customers have signed up, what's the revenue situation over there. So that's the landlord, which in OYO we call patrons. That's a patron and the operator side of things when it comes to technology.
Thank
I
you.
think what Jibran has just said, and in addition to that, I just want to add a value to it, that now it's a time that we should move away from the base shell, warm shell to a smart shell spaces. That makes in life easier for operator also to give a lot of solutions which he wish to do it to the end users. And you can say in terms of platform for interaction of all the members, that may be used as a skill development for the new startups and freelancers, where they can share their thought process and exchange idea, that if they have certain hurdles, how the other people have come across to that. So it's more of a kind of a platform where they can enhance not only that communication, but along with that could be a skill development activity also.
No, thank you. And Shyam, I've not left you out intentionally, but I thought I'm going to leave the technology side to come back and close it with you. I think it's going to be important to let the audience know what GoFloater does, because to be honest, I also have not had the chance to deep dive into it. So that's point one. But adding to that, I'm not going to let you go away that easy. What are the challenges technology provides in the flex industry? Because I'm sure you're coming across a lot of those situations as well. And then I'm going to let Sanjay and Anuj kind of defend their position on that one.
Yeah, no, I'm certainly not going to be doing any bashing here, so they don't have to defend themselves. They can support us. So basically, GoFloaters, we are a co-working aggregator, and we believe that work is not a place. Work can happen anywhere, and to Anuj's starting point, that's the belief. So we work with distributed remote companies, and we provide their employees with a workspace, a plug-and-play workspace near their near their home, when they want, where they want, on a pay-per-use model. So basically, we have a tech platform on which companies buy credits, and their employees use these credits to book a co-working space, a desk, or a meeting room for a few hours in a day to a few days, whatever be their demand for that being, right? And the whole point, coming back to how the whole panel started, right, is about the choice where people want to work, the choice of being able to mix work and life as per their demands, than going by a dictatum coming from the employer saying that Monday to Friday, 9 to 6, whatever, right? So people, some companies are okay to, many companies are okay giving that flexibility, and many, employees truly want that kind of a flexibility, right? So that's what we enable. 45 cities, from Dehradun to Kanyakumari, people could be booking a desk based on their need and use it in a pay-per-use model. That's kind of what we do, right? Now, coming to the technology aspects that we have been discussing about. So one is the, as an aggregator, we work with almost 320 plus co-working operators. So we work with almost everybody in India that we know of, right? Now, the kind of technology challenges or problems that we are trying to address with our product is like, for example, right, utilization is one, right? Hey, I've taken up or I have so many employees. How much of office space do I actually need? How much do I use? So one is utilization, which is probably the foundational ABC kind of a problem, right? So I'm spending money. Am I utilizing that, right? So that's number one. But now, fast forwarding, where we have gotten to is to understand user behaviors using technology and team behaviors using technology, right? So I can predict that in your company, right, based on your workflows and your organization setup, if your sales team is meeting less than 2 weeks in a month, they're probably underperforming, right? Or if your marketing teams are meeting less than once a week, they are going to be underperforming because another marketing team, maybe based out of Bangalore, is meeting twice a week and they're performing better than the other teams that are not meeting us. So basically, we are now looking at how teams collaborate. When do they need to collaborate, right? What are the milestones or what are the trigger points that would lead to those collaboration events? Let's all agree, right? Nobody comes to the office for AC, coffee, Wi-Fi, ergonomic chair, right? We've got it at home, right? We don't come to office for that, right? We come to office for purposeful interactions, and we come to office for those milestones where those interactions, the value of those interactions kind of drastically increase, right? So for example, we can tell that, hey, if you're onboarding a new employee, this is the kind of utilization that you should actually expect them to have for them to get properly onboarded into your team. If they do less than that, then maybe they're not getting onboarded properly, right? They don't get enough airtime with their team members. They don't get enough airtime with their seniors to learn the ropes by seeing them doing and to observe the culture of the company. So we're now getting into aspects of understanding user behavior, team behavior, and how could companies use this data point to kind of keep tuning or fine tuning their approach to work and workplace. And also, like to my previous point, offices, I mean, I can see some laptops open here, right? So obviously we're able to work wherever we want to work, right? So there's no question that we have to be at the office. But I go to an office because I want to meet somebody, right? So now our platform is helping people see who else is going to be at the office tomorrow, right? Or who else is going to be at the office day after tomorrow. Because if I want to work with a marketing team, I'm a product team guy, I want to work with a marketing team, or to Ms. Radhika's point, I'm from the audit team, I need to work with the finance team. If I find other finance team players at the office, it prompts me to come to the office, right? So how do you give those, how do you motivate the person to actually make that decision to shave up, dress up, iron their clothes and make that commute and come to the office, right? There has to be a purposeful reason. And that's what we are using technology to enable as we speak.
Thank you, Shyam. I'm going to move from technology because it kind of gets to everybody beyond a particular point of time, and discuss one of the major growth factors for our country. And I know everyone's been talking about how India has been growing, but I think the importance of the tier 2 and tier 3 markets in our country cannot be discounted. And as part of my remit at CBRE, I look after the entire state of Gujarat, and I can tell you the business over there has really grown in the last 3 to 5 years. And Sanjay, this one's coming to you because you've been one of the pioneers championing the tier 2 and tier 3 markets. Question to you: what kind of demand have you seen in those markets? Because it's evolved, I'm sure, in the last 3 to 5 years. And what are you seeing for 2024?
Sure. So, Janak, I'll go back 6, 7 years back when we really just started our journey in tier 2 cities, and it was, it was very consistent. Especially after the COVID period, and with the new models coming in, where these large occupiers and organizations really wanted to go closer to the employee base. The demand in tier 2 cities really picked up, and there's a test run which got started with these large occupiers who wanted to just set up a small shop and just test it out, that whether it's going to work for us or not. To our surprise, it worked out pretty well for most of them, and today they've been sort of ramping up, from starting from 100 seats to they've gone up to like a different level altogether. So there's a lot of demand which is being coming for last couple of years, and especially in tier 2 cities. But that said, one of the major challenges that we're facing again in these cities is limited stock, and the upcoming supply of good grade A compliant buildings. So that is one of the biggest challenges that we are facing. We've been working very closely with the local developers, with investors, to give them confidence that your space will be absorbed, or be giving them pre-commitments so that they can develop more. But today, the major challenge that we really just see, and we've been talking about this before the session, is clearly there's not a lot of space available in these tier 2 cities. But yeah, for next couple, to answer your question, Janak, next couple of years, we see a lot of, I don't see these models changing very soon, because the way the investments have happened from these large corporates and the kind of base they've already set up in these tier 2 cities, I think it's only gonna just go northwards. So next couple of years, we are pretty bullish about, especially these tier 2 cities.
And Radhika, this one's coming to you after that, because that's the flex side of it. And yes, stock is a challenge. But when you're looking at the smaller cities, not just for the branches, but for your regional circle offices, as the head of real estate, what are your CRE strategies for those markets? Because they do come with inherent challenges. If you could just help share some light on that.
It's unfortunate that in a country like ours, which is so diverse, not many builders are focusing on these areas. Especially, I agree with the fact that there is always a supply challenge. You don't get good buildings. You have those typical SEO type buildings available, which are not inherently very strong, not planned well. But I don't know why we lose the plot that India is a growth economy, and all the growth that's going to be pushed is going to be from tier 2 and tier 3. And even unbanked location. There's a lot of pressure even from the regulators and authorities for us to tap on unbanked locations. And while I'm saying this because I am into the system, I know, it'll be very hard to believe that we still have cities or towns where there's no bank, where there's no ATM. So imagine the kind of growth that we're going to witness with all this digital. And if we don't have supply, it's going to really bring in a very, very tough situation for all of us sitting here, including the players into the co-working spaces. We would be very happy if we have to open a branch or a regional setup somewhere in a tier 3 location. And as incubation, even for 3 months, if I get something, I would be glad to take it up. But right now, that option itself is not available. So for us also, it's very difficult from a CRE standpoint. We have to convince landlords. So what we do is, to answer your question, we tap under construction sites. At the pre-construction stage itself, when we know that it's just at the plinth level. So we take that punt, we work from smaller offices, we try and manage with whatever we have until the building is ready as per our requirement. And of course, these are very smaller building sizes, like a 15 to a 25,000 sometimes. And it goes up to like a 3 level or a 4 level within that 25,000 square feet. But yes, the demand is going to be there for sure. There is going to be a lot of growth with even banking moving into the tech side. I always say we're not a bank, we're more like a fintech. Yeah. So with banking moving to the tech side, a lot of operations is going to increase. More than branches, you'll have demand for offices. You know, because people are going to set up very less branches. Like I don't recollect when was the last I walked into the branch for doing any banking transaction. So people are going to need more and more offices for managing their operations, managing the file processing, managing call centers. A lot of these back-end operations is only going to increase, and demand for offices will increase in tier 2, tier 3. We are struggling right now, so we are focusing on properties very, very early in construction stage.
Anybody here looking at investing in tier 2, tier 3 cities, you've got a client sitting right here. So just putting it out there for anybody. But that is the need of the hour. These are the growth corridors of our country. I'm good. And Radhika, you picked on a very important point. These are the growth centers for the country, and we are on the growth phase. And Anuj, I'm going to come to you. What are the biggest opportunities? We spoke about one about the tier 2, tier 3 cities. But what are the biggest opportunities you're seeing in 2024 for the flex industry to get more sticky with end user occupiers?
Hello. Yeah, sorry. Can you repeat your question?
So there are, that's fine, I got a loud voice. There are ways where the country is growing, but what are the biggest opportunities you see for the flex industry to get more sticky with occupiers? And as they grow, or as you grow, there's a parallel growth for both of you.
So I think the first and foremost is the GCC market by itself. I think India has become a great center for global conglomerates to come to India and establish a strong base. And this is thanks to multiple things, not just young talent. I think the India story, or the great India story as I call it, we look like we're going to own this century at least as of now. And I think that by itself brings in a lot of confidence and comfort. The stable government, the positive approach of the government. I think some of those things have globally created a positive wave towards India. And if I were to read some of those stats, that alone is significantly high enough to boost up the entire flex business itself. The other important thing is, I think the good quality of work that you do and the quality of service that you provide. It's a lot of times a conversation, ma'am, only on prices. But if you actually get out of that price conversation and you look at the quality of service. So there's a concept between value and price. If you get the right value for what you pay for, you would see that you have a client who's sticky with you because he's happy with what he paid, but he's happier because he got what he paid for. Pandemic taught a lot of us a lot of things where ridiculous amount of at ridiculous rates deals happened. Half those clients are unhappy, half those operators are unhappy, and it's not great for anyone. But if you can do good quality service, I think, and just put your heads down and perform in a way that you enable the business to do better. As a flex operator, I'm a catalyst to a company to perform better, to scale higher, to bring better productivity into his company, to bring in better environment into his company, to bring in better new talent into his company, to retain his older talent, and to create all of that's our job profile. We are good at what we do, and that requires us to be great at the service, which enables these organizations to stay on longer with us.
Just in addition to this, there's I take that flex space from a product lifecycle model where the introduction was done, acceptance was done. Now we are in the stage of growth, and a lot of changes has been happened post COVID second wave, and the companies are now restructuring their CRE, especially they're going with the confined small strategic offices, which is more related to the core management server room with the finance people, and rest of the team are operating out of flex space where they need a lot of flexibility, agility, because probably you may never know that if you have on one particular location you may have 100 people, on the very next quarter you may have a 50 people over there and 100 somewhere else. So those flexibility always bring this flex space, and people have really see a lot of affordable talent is coming out of tier 2 tier 3 cities also with a better infrastructure. I completely agree. There are mix and paces of bad infrastructure facility. There are at the point of time you may have a good infrastructure facility in some of the cities like Bhubaneswar, Kochi, Coimbatore, Ahmedabad. So these are the good one, which is I see always a greener side of it, and you can say that flex is going to be a next norm for developers also. At the end of the day, the maximum absorption, as you have rightly said, is only 7%, and probably in next 2 to 3 years, it will mostly 3 times of that current percentage.
Can I add in?
Please.
So I'm probably not from the RE background, so I've got a little bit of more broader canvas to paint. It may land, may not land, but I'm going to shoot it, right. So I feel coming from a non-RE background, non-flex space background, I'm comparing flex not from where it was yesterday. I'm comparing flex with other industries and what they could be doing, right. So number one, while we spoke about technology, there's still a lot of work to be done to data enable the inventory, right? So even if, like, Kamal Jeet would know, right? If I have to get a code from a player, it would probably take 48 hours for them to get back with a code because they just don't know what inventory is available, right? So one is getting that, and for players like us, making the inventory available for integration so that can be booked on demand, right? That's number one, right? So I feel technology is still long way to go that operators could definitely do, right? Because they don't treat inventory as unlike a hotel industry where if it doesn't get booked for the night, they lose the money, right? Operators don't think that way, right? If it doesn't sell today, it'll sell tomorrow. Like, it's okay, right? We'll wait for another 24 hours. So that's number one. Number two, to Miss Radhika's point, I think a lot of the deals that we work with very few deals, but even the ones that we're working on, the question, some deals are like, hey, I need an office for Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, right? Or I need it for 2 days a week, 3 days a week, right? We are not equipped to do that, right? So why do occupiers come to a flex space or a managed space? Is to offload their risk and offload this, right? But now operators make them take the risk, saying, hey, I don't know, it's your company, it's your employees, I don't know whether they come or not, it's your risk, right? Take 100 seats, if 50 come, so be it, right? It's your problem, right? So to her point, not dealing with seats, can it be usage based, right? Can the pricing model be different? And obviously it's not going to be easy to crack. A lot of data, historical data has to come into play, and it is a moving target, so it has to keep on moving. Number three, where this industry can do better is to kind of ape what airline operators have done with like code share networks, right? So today, for example, to the point, right? I go to Incuspaze and I say I want something in Chennai, but can you also give me something in, let's say, Madurai? Incuspaze will say, hey, so sorry, we don't operate in Madurai, right? So if operators could come together to create a code share network and provide, okay, you take 100 seats, but 50 will be with Incuspace, 20 will be with Value Co-working, and 10 of them will be with somebody else, and it's structured as one deal. And obviously, this is where CBRE, JLL actually survive, but probably the operators could do also to kind of ensure that there's mobility within the network, and this mobility, there's accessibility within the network, and better standardized offering across the network. So I think those are my three big.
Shyam, you took away my last question, being cognizant of time. I'm actually going to open this up to all of you all. Are we close by or far from a day when two occupiers who have a hybrid working style, so some come in Monday, Wednesday, Friday, some come in Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, where two occupiers can actually occupy the same space? Not just that creates sustainability because you're using that same space, you're not keeping it empty. With the way technology is, with everyone being on the cloud, your IT does not necessarily have to be captive. I know in the banking industry, will be different, but and I don't mean to generalize, but are we close by or far away where the same space designed by whoever can be used by two occupiers on a hybrid model? Jibran, I'm going to start with you.
We are doing 2 pilots of that nature already.
Yeah, I know, I've heard about them, but yeah, I'll tell you where it came from later on. But Jibran, maybe over to you.
So what we've seen is that occupiers who take flex spaces, and within those flex spaces they want a world of their own. Right? They want their own office suites, etc. Right? So they respect that that their space remain their space, that it doesn't, that other people don't use that space. However, on your question, are we this kind of model? It does exist to some extent, right? For a lot of co-working operators, a lot of flex operators, they have some percentage of their space dedicated towards such zones, right? So you earmark a space, you say that these are open, dedicated seats, right? It's just about communicating to the customer that such and such is going to happen, right? That you sign an agreement where you say that this customer will come and occupy for these many days, and the other occupies for the rest of the days. So it's all about earmarking that zone within your space, right? And then having very transparent communications with your respective customers. So that is, to some extent, it is already there, right? It obviously for companies, it depends on the intent of the company, right? Who mostly want their own personalized spaces. But yeah, some percentage of spaces can be dedicated towards such a value proposition.
I'm the worst one actually to ask this, but okay, banking aside, I still feel this is quite far, because we as Indians will love to have our own space. We become territorial. We want our own desk. We want our own pedestal. We want to beautify the space by keeping some 10,000 religious or whatever stuff and trophies and certificates and I don't know what not. So we just take over. We go there and we take over. It's like it's mine, and so I don't know.
That's the cultural aspect. No, it's
Correct.
a valid point.
Yeah.
We do like our workspaces.
So
that's
maybe
the
if
cultural
we
aspect.
work around that, and instead of giving such spots on the desk, if we create a wall or something where you go and keep your stuff, maybe we can kind of expedite this. Otherwise, I'd see this not happening very soon.
I see it other way around, and there's a very I would say lesser percentage who may have you can say implement such ideas where they may have a night operation for Northern American clients, and day operation will take care of the normal operation. But there's always a difficulty to find out two such mixed product, or you can say end user at the same point of time. So you may be lucky if you get that, but other way around, it's far off.
I think half the time you'll be resolving some operational theft, and I don't know, then go check CCTV, somebody is taken by this and that is going to happen for sure.
So I think maybe the smaller seat requirements could probably move in this direction, but not necessarily the larger corporate world. But I must say this, 2019, when I was learning the business, and I've been to everybody's offices when I was learning, when I was in Incuspaze in Indore at Apollo, you guys had two tenants overlapping each other. At 6 o'clock in the evening, you would zoop in 10 minutes, clean up the space, and the next guy walked in at 6:15. You used to do that at 2019, I remember.
Yeah, so I agree with you. I think on a for smaller clients, it can be managed. But when you really just scale it up, I totally agree with what Radhika said. Because of the ground reality, it's just not practical. You cannot switch spaces between days. The clients have their own specifications. They need their own meeting rooms, the conference rooms, phone booths. So they have a very different specs altogether. So it gets very difficult to match both the clients for a larger space. But yeah, I mean, for a smaller client show, we can manage that. We have been managing that actually.
Shyam, you had a contrary point of view?
Yeah, so again, I can understand all the apprehensions here. There's actually a prop tech in UK called Hubble HQ. They do this, right? They do this. They match. They have the same office for 2 days a week and the same office for 3 days a week, and they match clients who could take that, right? So again, it's happening because there's a lot of unused space, right? So the moment the demand starts to or supply overtakes demand, that day this will happen, right? Now today there's so much demand, you don't have to do all those things to get your customers, right? So the moment you're sitting on top of 10,000 seats and you don't have occupiers for that, then it'll happen.
You know, what Shyam said, it's more with the transparency where the occupancies can be shared by the operator at the same point of time. It goes with that, you can say, opportunity revenue kind of a model also. But given a fact, matching those two customers is also for a same location is a Hercules task.
Yeah, so I just had one point to make here while I was just discussing. There's one thing which we always struggle with is finding spaces for events. And I don't know if it's feasible. I think it's high time like co-working should tie up with all these hospitality chains and at least keep the ground floor premium available for these kind of events where we just book in. And trust me, if you manage to get something like in BKC, it's gonna be full each day. Because we really struggle. We struggle big time. Even if we have to do a smaller conclave of 50 people, we have to like really figure out where to do it.
No, fair. So thank you. I think this was a very interesting aspect. My personal view is that we're not very far away from when two occupiers occupy a single building on a hybrid table. Maybe not Bombay, given the cost of real estate, and maybe not NCR, but I'm sure between Pune, Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, someone's going to do that. All right, we're out of time. I've been told I'm 0 minutes over time. So I'm going to thank all the panelists once again for their thoughts. It was different. It was learnings. It was relearning certain things. Common threads. Culture is going to be very critical as we move into 2024. Flexibility, not just on the occupier side, but the operator side also is going to remain paramount for 24. The growth corridors, while remaining the larger cities, let's not forget the tier 2 and tier 3 cities and community. I think that's what's going to come down to these 4 or 5 major parameters. Thank you everyone for your time. If we've got time for any audience questions, happy to pick those up. If not, thank you once again for staying in and listening to us. Thank you everybody.